Good evening, class. My name is Nick, and I am presenting about the Book of Contemplation, which is an Islamic account of the early Crusades by the poet Usama ibn Munkid, who I will refer to as Usama throughout this presentation. There we go. Okay, now for some short historical context about this book. It's basically about the early Crusades, the First Crusade. So as we know, in 1095, Pope Urban II called for a unification of Christian kingdoms to halt the growing power of the Islamic Empire. And although a lot of us kind of think of the Crusades as Christians versus Muslims, one thing this book helped me realize is that both of these sides faced a lot of infighting amongst themselves. So if you take a look here at this map, we see the expanse of the Islamic Empire, which had greatly expanded from just the Arabian Peninsula to the reaches of Eastern Africa and Southwest Asia. Okay, so now to learn a little bit about our author, Usama ibn Munkid. He was an important courtier of the time, and he served numerous Islamic political figures. And one important thing to note about him that we'll learn in the novel is that his diplomacy, his loyalty, was not necessarily bound to any specific ruler. He had a lot of friends, he had a lot of allies in the Islamic political scene, and it came to his aid often. So he was able to travel extensively around East Africa, Arabian Peninsula, Southwest Asia because of his job as sort of a diplomat. And although he was an important political figure, he's most famous for his works in literature, specifically poetry, such as this book, the Book of Contemplation, which was written as a gift to Saladin, the great Islamic Sultan. All right. Now for a quick synopsis about the book, it's essentially just sort of a first-person account of different wartime experiences that he went through as a courtier and a diplomat leading up to the First Crusade. So there's stories of battle and conflict amongst Turks, Franks, Egyptians, and other powers of the Arabian Peninsula. And this book was written in 1183, just I believe 5 years before his passing. Okay, now to the first section of the novel, which I called Battles and Betrayals. So you'll see why. So we start at the Battle of Shazar. Now, Shazar was the city that Usama was in control of, but he had gifted it to a friend. However, upon the Franks attacking the city, his friend abandoned his post, and Usama agreed to leave battle and go and defend Shazar. He was battling somewhere else at the time to maintain his honor and his friend's honor. So we see right off the bat that Usama is a very friendly person, and I included a quote. It says, "If God should rescue it, then it will be because of our good fortune, and this will redound to your glory before your Lord. However, if the place is taken and we are slain, it will merely just be our fate." So we see that he's a very selfless person. However, despite his selflessness, as Usama goes and leaves to go and save Shazar, the friend ended up taking all of his stuff. He sacked his riches, he took his belongings, and Usama was forced to flee to Damascus. Now, upon arriving in Damascus, Usama was treated with great respect. He was very well received. He was given a lot of money and a lot of expensive things. However, he didn't stay long, and he soon left to go to Cairo. And in Cairo, just like in Damascus, he was very well received. He was given thousands of dinars, expensive turbans, rugs, land, you name it. He had it. However, upon coming to Cairo, which was an important city in the Islamic political scene, he noticed a great deal of fighting within the caliphal army. Certain factions, the king's men of other princes, were at war. And the caliph, Al-Hafiz, ended up passing away during this tumultuous time. And his son, Al-Zafir, inherited the caliphate and all the problems that were currently going on with it. So Al-Zafir asked his emirs, or the Egyptian princes, to dedicate their loyalty to his vizier, his assistant, basically. However, all the emirs ended up abandoning their post, and they rushed to go help Ibn al-Salar, another emir who needed help at the time. And Al-Zafir was enraged by this and sent his vizier after Ibn al-Salar. However, his vizier was captured and executed. Now, this only enraged the caliph even more. So he sent even more after Ibn al-Salar. However, his plan was exposed. And Ibn al-Salar was well prepared. So all of the caliph's men were basically in danger now. They had gone to kill Ibn al-Salar, but they're exposed. Now, Usama, who I had mentioned earlier, he isn't necessarily loyal to anyone. He's friends with the caliph. However, he's also friends with Ibn al-Salar. And in this situation, he ends up helping out the caliph's men. He gives a lot of them refuge and saves them from Ibn al-Salar, who's out to kill all of his enemies. So he risks his own safety in doing that. Another example of his selflessness. And after meeting and saving some of these soldiers, Usama reflects on how delicate life is and how quickly things can change, as we've seen. So he says, "Glory be to he who determines the length of our days and fixes the moment of our death," which is something that has changed so quickly already. All right, now we get to learn a little bit more about Usama and his good fortune. So Ibn al-Salar ended up sending Usama to go help Nur al-Din, another man in the area who needed help in this time of war. And however, to reach Nur al-Din, Usama needed to cross the desert, which was a very dangerous task. And on the way, he ended up rescuing a number of Banu Ube people who were left poor and starving in the desert. So he gave them food. I believe he gave them some clothes. He helped them out in a time of great need. But Usama himself ended up becoming lost, and the treasure he carried with him was at risk of being lost. However, thanks to one of the quick-thinking members of his company, he ended up being saved, and he was able to reach Nur al-Din. And he ended up being able to fight in Ascalon for many months against the Franks before eventually being called to return by Ibn al-Salar. And at this point, I took notice of a pattern. And that is Usama's selflessness is unfailingly rewarded. We notice wherever he goes, whenever he's in danger, whenever he needs something, there's always someone who has his back, whether it's to give him a home or to rescue him or, money, power, whatever. Usama is always given what he needs. And that's partly because of his friendship that he has with everyone. Okay, I noted this part of the novel. I called it Changing Tides, as now a lot of things begin changing within the Islamic political scene. So Ibn al-Salar controls Cairo, which is, like I said, an important city, and he controls Cairo with his stepson Abbas, and they're plotting to overtake Gaza, sort of expand their powers. However, Abbas's son Nazir is loyal to al-Zafir, who is the caliph who is very spiteful of Ibn al-Salar, who had killed his assistant. And so Nazir plots with the caliph and ends up killing Ibn al-Salar, whose men end up splitting their loyalty between Nazir and his father Abbas. But the caliph is still unsatisfied. He wants Nazir to plot against his father and ultimately to kill him. And he gives him tons of money, tons of expensive stuff, saying, hey, let's kill your dad and let's both get more powerful out of this. However, Usama, who's close to all of these people, ends up finding out about this. And he tries to persuade Nazir otherwise, knowing that this is not the Islamic way. And so he says, my lord, let not Satan make you stray. Be not beguiled by him who would delude you. For killing your father is not like killing Ibn al-Salar. Do not do anything that will leave you damned until the day of judgment. So we know Usama is not only selfless, he's also a man of great religious morals. He's very cognizant of what it means to be a good Muslim. However, Abbas and Nazir, instead of kind of chilling out, saying, hey, maybe we should stop all the killing, they think, let's kill the caliph, let's kill the king. And so they do. They secretly assassinate al-Zafir. However, upon investigating this, they also kill all of his relatives and all of the other possible heirs to the caliphate. So they're clearing the way so they can seize power, essentially. However, the Egyptians take note of this. They notice Abbas's cruel tactics, and they end up recruiting someone named Ibn Ruzik to come and face him. But Abbas defeats Ruzik's army, and he's very insecure at this point, and he makes all of his men swear oaths to be loyal to him. However, his men turn against him and end up turning on him. And as Abbas flees Cairo, he is killed. And at this point, I noticed another pattern. I wrote, what goes around comes around. There's always a bigger fish in this novel. Someone will kill someone else for more power, and then the next guy comes around and kills them. So, what you end up doing seems to come back and either help you, like it does Usama, or it comes back and it bites you in the butt, like it did Abbas. All right, now at this point, Usama needs to escape. Now he was friends with the boss, the former ruler of Cairo, but he was also friends with his enemy, Ibn Ruzik, who offered him refuge. However, Usama still chose to flee. Now, upon fleeing, he had a very small company with him, and he was attacked by both Frankish and Arab people. And he ultimately required the help of a local emir to help him reach Damascus, where he sought safe haven. Now, at this point in the novel, it sort of broke off from this main part of action, and it gave us some short stories, which kind of echoed some similar sentiments that we've been noticing. So here's a story about Usama's saddle. Now, Usama was in possession of a very beautiful, a very expensive saddle, and he had given it to one of his more power political friends who just asked for it. But Usama's a nice person, and he did give it to him. Now, upon this other person losing the saddle in battle, I believe, another friend had come in possession of it and was flaunting the saddle's beauty to Usama. They're saying, look at how beautiful this is. Look how expensive it is. Feel bad for the sucker that lost this. And Usama says, well, hey, go ahead, look at the saddle, see whose name is inscripted on it. And it's Usama's name. It was his saddle. And the saddle is returned to Usama. And, you know, like I was saying, what goes around comes around. What is given will be given back. Now, here's another story of Commander Mukbil and Kader al-Nada. So Commander Mukbil had sacked a city. He had killed the men. He had taken the treasure. He had taken possession of a lot of women in the castle. And one of these women was Kader al-Nada, a very beautiful woman. But upon talking to Kader al-Nada, Mukbil finds out that she is the daughter of another important figure, Commander Ridwan. And upon finding out that Kader al-Nada is Ridwan's daughter, Mukbil immediately releases her. He doesn't want anything to do with her. He kind of lets her go. And like I'm saying, what's taken is given back. What is given will be returned. What goes around comes around. Now, Usama's story is starting to come to a conclusion. And at this point, he is helping Mu'in al-Din, who asks Usama to recruit this famous Ridwan to help his cause, to help them out in battle, basically. And Usama effectively persuades Ridwan, who didn't want to come, but he's persuasive, he's friendly, he gets him to want to help out Mu'in al-Din. However, on his journey to meet Mu'in al-Din, Ridwan is captured and imprisoned by the Caliphate. But he's a great warrior. He's famous for a reason. He escapes his prison and he sacks Cairo, but he's eventually tricked and killed. There's always a bigger fish. Usama, who's kind of left out, hanging out in the open, seeks haven with Ibn Ruzik. And Ibn Ruzik agrees to help him and agrees to help his family. However, upon the family's journey to reach Usama and Ruzik, their ship is attacked by Franks, and Usama loses a great deal of wealth. His family is preserved, but he loses a ton of wealth. And at this point in the novel, I noticed something different. I had yet to see Usama be impacted by something so monetary, basically, because he was very saddened by this loss of wealth, despite the saving of his family. So that was just a change that I noticed. And here are some themes and discussion questions that I proposed now that we've reached the conclusion of the story. So one of them is about suffering. Is suffering part of God's will? Is suffering something that God sets out for all men, or is it caused by your actions? If you're good to other people, will you receive good things in return, or like Usama did? Or if you're someone like Abbas, and if you're murderous, will you be hence murdered? And another one can be about religion. Does devotion to God, does devotion to these ideas of strong morals and religious ideas result in your good treatment and blessings, or is this suffering just part of God's plan? So sort of a similar question, but two different spins on it. One based more on your actions, one based more on your ideas and your values. I suppose they're intertwined, but pick what you want. And the last one I wrote is about the conflict, namely the infighting that we see a lot of in this novel. If in order to achieve a goal and you are willing to take down your allies, is this goal really worth achieving? So if you're setting out for something and you're setting out for that goal with someone else and you're willing to see them crap out for your own success, is what you're going for really worth it? And would you do something like that? I don't know. That's an open-ended discussion question for you to answer. And lastly, I included a little blurb from the conclusion of the novel, which kind of reflects the great losses, the great gains, all these ups and downs that that Usama ended up experiencing. He says, these then are the kinds of calamities that the tallest mountains shake and the most precious fortune cruelly break. But God, glory be to him, recompenses us in his mercy and concludes all things in his kindness and forgiveness. So thank you for watching my presentation. I hope to work with you guys all soon. See you later. Now, how do I stop recording this thing? There we go.